All right, guys, welcome back. So in this video, we're just going to use this worksheet to kind of plug in some numbers, look at how variables influence each other. Again, I wasn't totally sure where to throw this module and introduce this worksheet, except that when we're deciding how much to save versus pay off debt and things like that, it's just relevant. It's just helpful to understand what this looks like, okay? We'll certainly get into it more in the retirement module and others as we talk about different investment methods. So we're going to break this out again, but you can enter all your own info into here and really see your situation. You can every year you can kind of come in here and update it and see what's changed, or if you're tracking better or worse than before. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So again, we're only going to be changing these cells right here, the ones in red. Okay, these are the ones you can alter. Everything else does its job automatically. So what you're going to do is you're going to enter in your current age. So let's say 35 is your age. Let's just use this scenario. So your annual expenses are 75,000. Okay, that's not really including taxes, because once you're retired, generally speaking, your tax bill goes down significantly. Okay. Also, usually people maintain a similar standard of living between pre-retirement to post-retirement. Sometimes spending goes down slightly or expenses go down slightly, but other times they go up because you have more free time, you're traveling, you're spending more money doing things. So let's just assume it remains the same, and you want to keep your same standard of living, whatever that is, to in the future. Now, maybe this is your standard of living now, but based on some goals you have, like, hey, I want a really big house and I also want a vacation home and maybe your actual expenses that you want to plan on are, 100,000. Maybe you want to plan on being able to spend $100,000 a year. Whatever it is, it's fine. Just put that as your annual expenses. Whatever you want, the standard of living, the type of lifestyle you want, enter it in. Annual savings, again, this is one of the most important things. I don't really care how much you spend necessarily, as long as you're saving enough to support it. That's it. So annual savings is that. Withdrawal rate, again, we talked about withdrawal rate in the last video, current savings. Now these two, I just want to give you a heads up. The rate of return here, it's not just a simple 8% you can enter in here. Because of the formula for inflation adjusted rate of return, this is the best way I can think of doing this in here. I'm not an Excel or Google Sheets whiz, like probably somebody out there is. So if you're doing a rate of return, this is 8%. So just put in, if you want to change that to 10%, then you just go 1.1, 0, right? Same with the inflation rate. This is 3%. So if you want inflation to be 6%, then you would adjust it that way. So just a quick FYI. So here we are. This is what we're doing. We need $1,875,000 to be able to hit our financial freedom number, withdraw 4% of our portfolio, and live happily ever after, riding off into the sunset. This is accounting for inflation through giving you a lower rate of return, an inflation adjusted rate of return. So if we look down here, you're going to retire at age 62. At this point, right, you've already hit your total savings. You don't need any more money to hit that number, and you're good to go. So let's play around with some of these variables and say, hey, what if I did this? What if I did that? And see what the difference would be. So number one, let's play around with current expenses. So let's say we actually wanted to spend $100,000 a year, but we're still only going to save $20,000. Well, our number goes from 1,875,000 to 2.5 million. That's quite the increase, over $600,000. So what does that mean to our retirement date? It pushes it out to age 67, right? Before it was age 62, now it's age 67. Okay, 5 years. So spending an extra $25,000 a year means you need an extra 5 years of saving till your portfolio gets to the point where it can support that. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. 5 years is a long time. So maybe you say, okay, well, let's move this back down to 75. Maybe I'm okay hitting a lower number. Maybe my actual expenses are going to be 60,000. How does that change things? Well, now all of a sudden we can retire at age 59. Okay, we get our funds. We only need 1.5 million. We get that, well, basically at age 58, but age 59, we have it for sure, and we're good to go. So these are pretty big differences just based on how much you're planning to spend. Now let's do the same thing with annual savings. So let's say, we're doing 20,000 a year. Let's pump that up. Let's say we're doing $30,000 a year. So right now we're retiring at age 62. With this, we're able to retire at age 58. Okay, we're able to take off 4 years from our retirement date by doing that. Now, what if we did a combo? We're going to spend less 60,000 and we're going to save 30,000. All of a sudden, we've hit our date at 55. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. We just adjusted our financial freedom date significantly, okay, by more than 5 years, just by using those two, okay? Now, we can obviously get really crazy and whittle our expenses down to nothing, and then all of a sudden we're there a lot sooner. Some people can do that and they're fine with it. I just don't think that's very sustainable for the vast majority of people. I certainly had that mindset kind of for a long time. I was like, hey, how can I spend the least amount possible so that I only need this much money to be able to hit financial freedom? And then I realized that I actually like living life and I like things and I like going to the movies every once in a while and I like to travel and things like that. And so I want to build that in to my ideal lifestyle. If I didn't have to work, but also I couldn't spend any money beyond basic survival, that would not be enjoyable for me. So to each their own, but that's kind of my perspective on it. So I would put these at what you think is really reasonable and what you want. You know, if it's 75,000, then do that. If it's 100, then do that. Okay. So we've played around with expenses. We've played around with savings. The other thing that, has an impact obviously is rate of return. So let's say that we're able to get a 10% rate of return. So we're just going to plug that in. That brings us to age 54 when we can retire. If we back these down to 60,000 again, all of a sudden we're at 51. Maybe we increase savings. You get the idea. Changing the variables changes things a lot. Maybe inflation is actually higher. Oh, we lost 2 years again, right? Maybe it's higher than that over the long term. Oh, we lost another year. Okay. So all of these things have an impact over the long term. First, you got to focus on what you can control, which is expenses and savings. And then once you've got that under control, then you can start shooting for controlling some of these others. So if you base it on an 8% rate of return, or let's say 8.5% return, which rounds up, 8.5% return, let's say, okay, we're going to base our scenario on that. Okay. Conservatively, if we invest aggressively, obviously in the stock market, then that's the average long-term rate of return of the S&P 500, somewhere around there. So we're going to bank on that. What do we need to do to adjust our age when we can actually retire? What do we need to do? Well, it's expenses and income, expenses and savings. So you can either cut expenses or add income. So let's say 60,000 is where you want to be, or let's even put it at 75 again. You're like, yeah, I actually do want to retire by 50. Well, that means you need to up your savings. And if you don't have any money left, then you need to earn more income. So why don't you go earn $10,000 more income and save all of that? So then you're saving 55,000. Ooh, close. So you might need $15,000 of income and you're saving all that. And there you go. See how that works? Pretty cool. All right. The only other thing I want to talk about here, we'll talk about withdrawal rate and all that type of stuff in future videos as well. But I just want to show you the impact that this could have. In the stock market, again, it's 4%. But what if you are in real estate, or what if you have a business that is sending out cash flow? Okay. There are plenty of real estate deals out there that you can get into passively, some that are more active that you can get a higher rate of return if you want to go that route. Some that are more passive, they give you a slightly lower cash flow, right? Cash on cash return. But I've seen quite a bit of an 8% cash on cash return. So let's say instead of investing everything in the stock market, let's say that we are building our savings and investing in real estate. And it's providing on average an 8% cash on cash return. In other words, it's sending us 8% cash flow of what we have invested. Look at how this changes things. If this goes to 8, okay, do you see that? It went from age 50 to age 43. It just dropped 7 years by doubling the withdrawal rate. Why? Because you don't need as much money to get there. You only need 937,500 instead of 1,875,000. It essentially drops in half. So different types of investments with different types of cash flow are different. Maybe because you're getting such high cash flow, maybe the appreciation on this is not very much, right? So let's say a 4% rate of return on the real estate or whatever you have. Let's say average appreciation of the value, but you're getting 8%. So that's what that looks like. Okay, age 46. So you might go for growth and appreciation in some investments, and others you might go for cash flow. Just depends on your flavor and what kind of investments are out there. So in this case, right? If you're saying, hey, what if my rate of return was higher? There's a lot of investment deals out there, a lot of private funds, real estate syndications, people doing really cool stuff with value add or development. What if I get into those? And what if I have a 15% rate of return overall? Let's take down our cash flow. You get the idea. So play with these numbers. Again, with this, there's the link. I'll include another link below this video to go ahead and access this, but you'll just hit file, make a copy, and save it to your own drive so you can edit it, put in your own numbers and all of that stuff. But play around with it and see what the ballpark is, what's realistic, and what are you shooting for. And again, we'll address more of this in future videos. So we'll see you guys in the next one.
Simple numbers, big insights.